All right, we are live. It is, what is it, December 9th? And doing the state of the network. I just got word in the last half hour that Neil couldn't be here because one thing, Dave couldn't be here because the other, Joey couldn't be here. Daniel, Paul was like, hey, I'll come, but it's close. So I figured I will just rock this one on my own today. So just you watching and me. But I do have a bunch of stuff to talk about, so we should be able to get through some of it. We got some cool stuff coming up. Let's see, where do I want to start? I think in the description, there is a link to the CoinDesk hit piece that came out on December 5th. And what I wanted to do here was just take a minute and go through. When you see these pieces come up, it can seem like, oh my God, Helium took another hit. But on closer inspection, I think it's worth seeing that it didn't, and it's just a journalist who doesn't understand Helium, which is unusual because, or at least surprising, because this is CoinDesk, and I would think that CoinDesk would kind of understand how crypto works, but it looks like Sam Reynolds doesn't, and that's, not no ding on Sam Reynolds. It just looks like he didn't totally understand what was going on. So the piece is kind of the typical thing. Hey, the big dog is full of holes, all this stuff, sticks a pin in his hot air dreams. Like, nice catchy title. We're seeing a lot of these, whatever picture bullshit things. But these are really important to read through and make sure that the author of the piece has an understanding of what's going on, so that when you take your information from them, it's actually good information versus bullshit, which is what this is. Okay, so where we kind of see that is this thing here, Helium peer-to-peer network, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, a partnership with Dish Network was also not true, right? So this thing is trying to piggyback off of the Lime and what was the other one? Salesforce, which were both things where Helium had reached out to those guys and said, hey, let's do a trial. They had said like, yeah, sure. And then nothing was ever really inked. Made Helium look really stupid. And it was a stupid thing to do to kind of not ink those deals and then claim it. But whatever, they're a small company growing fast. So here's the thing. Helium claimed its hotspots would be incorporated, da-da-da. And he references this article. So if we come over to this article, Dish denied it had any involvement, right? Here's another article where you'd think these people would know what's going on. PC Mag, hopefully they're computer geeks and they get it. But they don't. So, hey, thanks, Fred Gardner. Just saw that super sticker come through. What's up, Kevin? What's up, Travis? 619, Anthony. Good to see you guys crushing here. All right, going through this article. Sorry, I just gone back to the notes. Okay, so here's the thing. This guy wrote this piece, whatever it was, back in October 2027, and he says, Dish does not intend to pay Helium hotspot owners to provide coverage on... Jesus, my highlight thing's not working. On its upcoming 5G network. So... here's where this guy, like, he's trying to understand it, but he's just not getting it. And I get it, right? These things are complicated pieces. And if you just skim over the information and then make hasty assumptions, you look like a fucking idiot, which is what this guy looks like, because he just didn't do his homework. And maybe I shouldn't be so harsh. He just didn't do his homework. God knows I've not done my homework a couple times, and you just look stupid when you don't do it. So here's the thing. Yesterday, this is back in October, Helium and Dish said Dish would become a customer of Helium Network, but I read more into the press release. And basically the upshot of this is that this dude mistook the idea that Dish will not pay hotspot owners directly. And I think this is for 5G, which they won't. Like, no shit. Dish doesn't pay in HNT. Dish buys information or buys, data on the Helium Network, pays probably Nova because they're buying it from Nova, and then Nova provides the data. Like, it's a little bit confusing, and I get it, but that's kind of what it is. You got to read through this thing. I thought yesterday, based on this press release, that Dish users would be able to use the CBRS network. It's like they can, you just don't get how the whole thing works. And he goes through and explains it as to his understanding down here. But yeah, worth reading through. I don't think you need me to read through the whole thing for you. That always is obnoxious to me when someone is reading to me. I'm like, if I'm a fucking 45-year-old grown-ass man, I can read myself. But read through it before you make crazy assumptions or believe a headlining title. Okay. So I think that knocks out that first one, and that is not a specific hit on, what was it, CoinDesk or PC Mag. It's just, hey, when you see these things, make sure you read the articles. Make sure you read, click through to the links that they're referencing. There is an awful lot of sloppy journalism out there, and this is an example of that. And it can make you feel like the network is not as good as it actually is, just based on someone's faulty understanding. All right, enough of the kind of negative bullshit stuff. I don't like that any more than the next guy, but it's good to know. The next thing I've got is the Rackstars is having a show after this with a Helium community update. They don't do that as often as this one. Like, they're not, focused on Helium once a week, but they do a once a week show. And they're doing a Helium community update. They're going to be talking about Helium in the wild. So I thought I'd point that out. That is also in the description on this YouTube. And then the last thing I wanted to hit, and this is where I'll spend kind of most of my time, is on the sensor thing, right? The last link in the description, I think, is a list of potential projects that some of you have contributed to. And this is really where I wanted to spend time on this state of the network. Orlando, when Lambo? Well, not anytime soon, unless you pay attention to this next part, which is, look, what I'm seeing is a lot of folks are coming into Helium still, and they're thinking that POC, proof of coverage, or data credits are going to pay for the hotspots. And in one sense, actually, Neil had corrected me on this last week when we were going back and forth with the Aussies on it. In one sense, that's true, right? If you're doing POC and you're doing a good job, and you buy a hotspot for whatever they know, like $150, maybe $200, you can pay the thing off in under a year if you're doing a great job. Like, it's not that bad. Right? For a business, that's not that bad. I think it's still a terrible idea to deploy a hotspot now solely to earn POC, but my understanding is not the only understanding out there, and that could be an incorrect understanding. However, I think there is a much greater opportunity in using sensors on the Helium network and selling that as a service. And in kind of pursuit of that, what is this thing that 619 put up, a lamb and a present? Oh, Lambo, of course. Nice, dude. Is figuring out how to use sensors. And I'll tell you right now, as it stands December 9th, 2022, it's still a pain in the ass to put sensors on the network. I've been kicking this idea around of doing a sensor school or a sensor coach or something for Gristle King, where you would come in and you'd take a little kind of intake interview and say, like, hey, basically I'm hacking this and that. Like, I can do everything. Just point me to cool projects. Or you come in and say, hey, I'm kind of like Nick at the very beginning, and maybe Nick Hawks right now, is I don't totally understand the whole flow. Would you walk me through it? And whatever you pick, it'll say, okay, wherever you are, here's where you start, and walk you through the whole thing. And when I say whole thing, it would be, hey, here's a specific sensor project, right? Here's the classic temperature and humidity sensor. Go and buy this. When it comes in, come back here. I'll show you how to onboard it onto console. And then I'll show you how to get the information off console into a dashboard, right? So just kind of formalizing a lot of the lessons that are scattered out there. Yeah, when more sensors, hack, they're coming. Who were we talking? Max and I were talking, I think, to someone the other day. I don't think this is public. We were talking to one of our clients, and it looks like there's going to be thousands of sensors coming online from them. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, so whether you start with the really basic sensor thing, what I saw is that a lot of this information is kind of scattered around the internet, and I think there is a play to be made for a business, and I'm thinking about making it, to formalize a lot of this learning. Now, I've talked about this with Rob Putt over at TrackPack. He wants to do like an IoT learning thing, and so I think there's some pretty cool synergy opportunities here. To work with a bunch of people and say, look, here, everybody kind of does the thing they're good at, and together we can create a resource that's useful and also makes money. Because at the end of the day, I want to have a business that makes money and pay my bills. Travis, in there, you are a part of this. I'd like to teach a rundown on using STM32DBMX for an EndNode. Yeah, so Travis showed me this really cool thing that is called HardShare. And I didn't put the link in the notes on this. Maybe I'll add it in later. But I think this is part of my giant plan. Is in the office, I'm going to put here's my plan, Travis, and you tell me if it's a bad one. Is I'm going to buy another server case. I've got these. Geez, what are they? not nav point cases for servers, is what I thought I'd do is buy that thing, put in some lights, put in a little robotic arm, put in like 4 cameras, and then put in a bunch of sensors in there. And the idea with HardShare is that the sensors are already set up, and you rent time on them to kind of play around with it. And all like the onboarding stuff and like the pain in the ass part is done, but you can practice on a real live sensor. So you remote in and you practice on the sensor. And the idea that I've got is like, hey, we'll have this box set up where you can look at your look at the cameras and look at the sensors in there and make them do different things. You can turn the lights on and off. You can raise or lower the temperature and see if the sensor tracks it. You can, get different camera points. If you want to get super fancy and I find someone who can do this, you have the little robotic arm come down and pick up one sensor, put it somewhere else so you can check the movement of it. But yeah, it would be, that would be, hacking this out like a Helium masterclass. And it's funny because the chat on this application, which is Ecamm Live, is like, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute behind. So sometimes I can seem a little slow. Yeah, so I think, that's part of the idea, is that wherever you onboarded into this process, whether you came in as like a total kind of baby pants student or you come in at the hacking this and that or Travis level, is there something for you to do in here? And then there's the other entry point, which is the instructor side. So I think there's a really cool play here to figure out how do you reimburse instructors and how do you incentivize instructors to come in and share their knowledge where it's just beyond free. And I know a lot of the guys on this stream here are like, dude, I'll do it for free. But I kind of question, for me, because I always think of, and as an ego guy, from my perspective, is how long do you do like high quality content for free? And I think it's always cooler if you get paid for doing something you love. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's the approach I'm going to take on this. So the idea is that I would have a lesson plan. Like I've done a lot of teaching. The U.S. government has spent a lot of money to figure out how to teach me to be a better teacher. And I figured I'd share that with you and say, hey, here's a suggested lesson plan. So you come in and you look at my lesson plan. You're like, okay, cool. I've got this really cool idea for a sensor that does whatever, X, Y, Z, like tracks how far a grasshopper jumps, whatever it is. And you say, okay, cool. This is how I'll build it in this lesson plan. You build the lesson plan. You submit it to the system. At first, it'll just be me. I'll review the lesson plan and make sure like, yeah, this makes sense. And I can do this and this is good. This is kind of ready to release to the world. And then once it gets approved, it goes out there. And I see you guys crushing on the chat. It goes out there and then anyone can do that lesson plan, right? And it's been vetted by someone who kind of knows what they're doing, whether that's me or someone else who's the government calls them MTSs, Master Training Specialist. I always thought that was such a silly cert to get, but it turns out that it's pretty useful to know how to teach people. But this lesson plan has been certified by someone or reviewed by someone who's like, yeah, I know how to teach and I know how the kind of concept should flow. Curriculum advisor. And then you get to take the course. And I think, and I'm very unclear on this, but I think there's something like, $5 a month and you can take unlimited courses, as many as you want to take. Like, I don't think that there's a great reason to be like, oh, you should pay $2 for a basic course and $5 for a master course. And this sensor is way more a pain in the ass and that one is less. Maybe there is, because what I want to have happen is that every time someone takes your course, you get a cut of that pie. You get a slice of that pie. I think that's a really cool idea. And then wrap the whole thing into a Discord community, whether it is the 𝗪𝗀𝗀𝘀 server. In fact, can one of you guys test this thing right now? You should be able to go to discord.𝗪𝗀𝗀𝘀.com and it should take you to the Discord server. I set that up a couple days ago. That should have propagated through the interwebs and be working. Maybe it's not. But yeah, so you'd be able to go to a Discord server, whether it's the GK server or one that I'll set up called whatever, Sensor Coach or Sensor Share or Sensor Teacher, whatever it is, and go in there. And then each channel in there, and this is kind of my business plan entirely revealed. So if someone steals this and does a better job, great. If not, I will do it. Each channel has kind of a specific guide. So if you wrote the guide for the sensor, if you wrote like the grasshopper length jumper guide, you would also be expected to be over in, or you could be over in the Discord and in that channel, and you would be the tech lead of the grasshopper distance jumper channel, right? And there might be a moderator who moderates a bunch of channels so we don't have spam on there and the rest of that. But that way, when people come in and they're like, hey, I found this one thing, like I'm running a 1982, whatever, Windows computer and it's not updated. How do I do this? You could be in there and be like, because a lot of these guys, whether it's Hacker Travis or Neil or any of these guys who are in this, one of the channels that I host on GK that's for super geeky tech stuff, like they know how to do this. And when I come in there, I'm like, dude, I have no idea even where to start looking. Like I'll start by Googling. But for them, it's kind of second nature to like, oh yeah, back in 1982, the Super Linux distro went to this thing, and like you can find it on this link, and like they got the link memorized, they bring it right up, and they take you where you need to go. And so that kind of ability is super cool to have on your side, and I want to share that out to more people. So the channel would have a tech lead, would have a moderator kind of managing it, and then I thought the other cool thing that is really interesting. Well, I think it's really interesting, is how do you make that so on Discord you get paid for moderating a specific channel? And I don't know if that has even been done yet, if that code is written yet, if that's somewhere out there. I haven't paid a ton of attention. It looks like you can do subscriptions on Discord, which is kind of cool, but it's more like a sledgehammer when what I want is like a really fine screwdriver. But I think that's the whole thing. Yeah, we did the student onboarding. We did the teacher part and teachers getting reimbursed for their stuff. We did how the whole community goes. So there's also like for each channel, you've got the tech lead who's the person, but you've also got people who have kind of gone before you. And when useful stuff gets put in there, it gets pinned up to the top, and there's a moderator kind of making sure a lot of that admin stuff is done. It is completely stolen as of this moment right now. Yeah. Cool. Get it and do it. I think look, this is the thing. People talk about, what is it, like blue ocean or greenfield strategy, where there's nothing out there doing anything like this. And I'm sure that is incorrect. Like someone is certainly doing like an IoT school, and there are great resources out there for IoT. And I know Travis and Hacking This has started this, or has not started this, has shown me stuff like this, but I haven't seen anything that's Helium specific. And my gut is that, this goes into a video that I'm trying to get done with Max later today or this weekend on blockchain and meatspace projects and how to assess them. But a lot of the benefit, like one of the crazy benefits of running these blockchain meatspace projects like Helium or GeoNet or Anode Labs or HiveMapper or Demo or what have you, is it's an entry point for people who are interested in crypto to find out about an entirely different ecosystem, right? So before tokens for teachers. I like it, Sam. Yeah. Travis, I knew you'd have something. I was like, Microsoft got this great IoT course. There's lots of these courses that are free. And I found with the free courses, it's super cool, but there's always like some little sticking point for me it's just kind of a pain in the butt to get around, because I don't have Windows, or I don't have this, or I'm not on the same system, or I hit something where I haven't updated. And so having something where it's paid, and then there's someone there to kind of handhold you through, and that someone who handholds you through has handheld other people and is kind of coming into it saying, look, I know I'm going to be on Discord anyway for 8 hours a day. I might as well get paid for it. I got sidetracked. So when I came into Helium, I think it was a little bit of an unusual entry point in general, is that I was looking for an IoT solution. I was looking for LoRaWAN. I was looking for this paraglider tracking thing. Found Helium, got sidetracked into this whole different life. But I think most people come into Helium looking for the token, right? They want to earn the token. So it was Helium was the first of these Tippin or blockchain and meatspace projects, and it was an entry point into LoRaWAN for a lot of people. And so a lot of people found this technology that they wouldn't otherwise have found. And that's kind of this crazy side benefit of, if you start a blockchain and meatspace project in your kind of deep tech expertise, whether you're a GeoNet or whatever, is that a lot of people are going to learn a lot about the technology that you're super familiar with, and it spreads out education to the world. And I think for each one of these projects, there's probably a learning project like the one that I'm proposing that can be built on it. Like the blue ocean is so big. And I know you're kind of laughing about it, Anthony, is that, this idea is stolen. Like that's like running down to the Pacific and scooping out like a gallon of water and be like, dude, I own the Pacific. I got this thing. Like, I think there is so much out there that nobody for a long time can kind of fix it, scoop it all up. So, and I think that like sharing these ideas, I mean, you can't really see the whiteboard behind me, but there's all these, there's a million ideas on there. And my problem, like a lot of people, is having all the ideas and then being able to execute on them. But yeah, there's like tons of businesses to be built on Helium that that take you to the place that you want to go if you want to run a successful business and also benefit the world. I was out my morning walk today with my little, doggies walking around barefoot in San Diego. It's winter here, so it's 50 degrees. And I saw this dad walking his 3 little kids to school. And I was like, what I should do is I should set up this hard share thing that Travis had shared with me. I should do this little server enclosure at the office and then go to that school and be like, hey, how can I help you guys with this? Right? Like I'm not a geek, so I can't really help with the teaching of it. But I think through Discord and through this community that all of us have grown together, I can certainly do management stuff. I can certainly put projects together, and I can make it so that I connect you with some world-class talent, and the kids at this school can do this thing without any fee to the school. And that might be another cool thing, is to say, look, you're a public school. Like, it's a pain in the butt for you guys to get any funding. In the US, they're kind of traditionally underfunded. Is either have like a super low educational license, because it's always nice when they have skin in the game, or if that's too much of a pain in the butt for them to pull out a credit card, be like, look, I'll just give it to you for free. Like, this world is changing so fast. And those 3 little kids that I saw today, if they go the route of not being exposed to this kind of geeky stuff just because the public school doesn't have something like it, or even the private schools around me, the charter schools don't have something like it, because access to the people that I've met over the last 2 years of Helium is difficult if you're not kind of running in these circles. When all of us on this, like, we're totally used to Discord. Right. So we cruise into Discord, you find a new server, and it's like, oh yeah, I'll go to this channel and I'm on this thread and I'm in this, private DM, or I'm in this private channel. Like, that's natural for all of us now. But it's taken a while for us to figure that out. And I think there is a super cool play to be made to say, look, let me just, like, the job that I've got is to open the door to a new world to you. And if you want to walk in, ripping. If you're a private individual and it costs you $5 a month, I think that's reasonable. If you're a school and funding is a pain in the ass, I'm fine for you to walk through that door for free. And we all build this world together where we start investing in these kids, like, figuring out this thing, right now. Like, how do you figure out this thing, which is a CO2 sensor? I've got my desk is littered with devices. But just plugging them all in. All right, let me go back and pay attention to chat, because I've been seeing it's blown up. You guys probably have like great ideas that I'm just totally running over. No, I do not want to ban 𝗱𝗲𝗀𝗀. I just wanted to click on the chat. Oh my God, you guys have been crushing it. Tokens for teachers, cool. Saw that one. Yeah, decentralized school to train people for Helium. Sam, yeah, I think that's super cool. And I think the Helium angle is neat because there is some crypto stuff involved, and you could always put out a hotspot if you put it out in a good place, and it could, eventually earn a little bit. And I think that was one of my hopes early on, is like, hey, let's put up hotspots on top of orphanages and animal shelters and help them earn. For me, I think that's nowhere near as persuasive as it was. Like, what are you going to earn, $2 a month? Like, probably not worth it, especially if you're not, if your orphanage isn't on top of a mountain with great connections or POC potential. But yeah, something like this. Let's see. Travis got a Discord link. Oh, that's to a 𝗚𝗶𝘀𝗀. That's the one that's teaching people. It's something like this. Sierra, that's awesome. Yeah. I think that's super cool. Let's see. And Anthony, what if you attach an NFT and have a level? Actually, I think I can add this to the broadcast so we're all looking at the same thing. Yeah. What if when we attach an NFT, level up, student to master, achieving different? Yeah, totally. So this like different levels thing, I thought would be really cool to say, hey, you get different points for how many lessons you do. And there's a thing in here, like, it's got to be careful whenever you attach any incentive to anything, is making sure that you don't attach it, the incentives in a way that encourages gaming or cheating. But it would be really cool to have like points for different lessons. So let's say Travis or Hack or whoever it is, one of you guys on here, and I'm sure I'm forgetting like 900 people. I could probably just read through the list of the 𝗚𝗶𝘶. But whoever it is puts in a lesson. And I would say, like, hey, put in a number from 1 to 5 on how difficult this is. And that might be a cool multiplier for points. So when you finish that lesson, part of the thing was when the student finishes the lesson, they do like a little script, maybe on YouTube, maybe on Twitter, where they're holding it up and they're like, hey, I just did this CO2 sensor thing. This is a cool project. And then they switch over to their console and show you that it's, beeping. And then they switch to the dashboard, and I'll write like a series, like, hey, here's how I want you to put this out. And they do something to Twitter, to YouTube, or to Discord, or whatever, and they get points for sharing what they did to encourage other people to do the same thing, and to like let you know, hey, real people are doing this, and like they're figuring it out and they're struggling through. And so maybe the script is like, hey, tell me your name, tell me where you live, tell me the project that you did, tell me your biggest challenge, and then tell me like what is like, how are you going to use this, right? So they go on camera on their phone, they do that, they post it up there, and do that, and they get points for it. Right. And so maybe there's a play here, and I think this is just getting myself way into it, the deep end, but to have either like your own little token system or your own like teaching chain in there where you earn tokens and whatever, you can sell those back. Yeah, Travis, implementation is a lot harder than idea. True fact. This may never go anywhere, but I think it's a cool idea. Let's see. We could leverage digital audio watermarking for video content. Sierra, yep. That'd be super, super rad. Tons of work. And I think we talked about this. Was it last State of the Network where I talked about this? There's now a channel on the GK Discord for, I don't know if we made the Censor School one public yet. Maybe not. But yeah, maybe we can do something super cool. Let me go through the rest of the notes here. Discoverability can be difficult. Yeah, like I'm just seeing all this stuff. Travis, this is like 100% true. This kind of the thing that I see maybe I can help with the most is because I've got all the connections to all the folks here, is saying like, look, let me just connect people to each other, because we can do rad stuff together. Let's see. San Diego Unified will say no at the moment because they were just hacked, and they'd be sketched with kids joining Discord. I think on Discord. So this might be another cool thing, is to say like, hey, why don't we have a paid moderator on there that just cleans it up and keeps things safe for kids? You certainly will have to ban my language on that, but like, hey, there's channels where Nick isn't, where it's like it's kid safe just because they're not going to hear the 300 F-bombs an hour. That's my standard rate. Let's see, do a Helium degree. That's super cool. I like it. Yep. And then Fred, where are we on the Mapper game? I think I've seen, so this is definitely public on the GK Discord. I haven't looked at the channel lately to see where it is. And in fact, I set up the email. I think the email fired for everyone who signed up for that, to put that out and kind of push everybody into Discord and say like, hey, kind of work amongst yourselves to sort this out. I haven't put a ton of time into that in the last couple days, but yeah, that's still, it's like one of the little yellow blocks on my board. Let's see. I haven't seen the HiveMapper YouTube. That's hilarious, Anthony. But drop a link so that we can watch it if it's super funny. Oh, is that the one where it's their ad with the lady explaining HiveMapper to people in the back? What? Yeah, okay. And then Travis, what is 𝗶𝗶? That's probably like some child protection thing. Or where you live, yeah. I mean, I think it'd just be like a suggestion script for the students to come on and share it. And I think that's one of the crazy things that we see with the interwebs in general, is that it seems to me kind of self-evident, but I'll hit it anyway, is that on Discord, you can be super helpful or you can be a total jerk. And also, Aussies looking at you directly, Leo, is you can appear to be a real asshole, and then in person you end up being like a super nice guy. And that is like a country kind of regional specific thing, where that's how the Aussies do it. Like they want to go in and just go like head to head and fight and be to an American ultra abrasive, ultra rude. And then at the end they're like, oh, hey, that was awesome. Yeah, come on in here and have a beer together. And that's just how they do it. Like they're not actually bad people. And Neil had to remind me of that, because like, dude, what is going on with these people? Like it's like they don't want to be helped, but that's just how they communicate. And so having some kind of script that says like, hey, this is a reasonable way to communicate to the world, and remember that our regional differences are different, and this is a way to interact with people across the planet and make them so that they want to help you instead of want to not help you. That could be super useful. Because I mean, here's the thing with jumping on the Australia thing real quick, is that there is a problem there. That problem has to be fixed. It's not like they're all bitching about nothing. There's a problem there, and it's got to be fixed. It's just, how do you get that thing fixed? How do you communicate? I think that's where a lot of the breakdown is happening. So, Joe, good to see you on here. In fact, Joe, I was going to post a link to the show that you've been proposing to do tomorrow on your channel, which is Network Bits, where you're getting a couple people together and saying like, hey, let's take a look at Helium and get a bunch of different perspectives. And you got Chris, was it Banyel? I don't know if it's Banyel or Bagnell on there. Mike Veerling is supposed to come on to that. I know we had a couple others coming on. If you got a link, drop it over and I'll post in the description. But that was kind of a cool idea that I thought you had. But yeah, and then what else is, I think that's all the stuff I had on my notes. No, the list of potential projects. So going back to the list of potential projects, which is how we got on this whole like Helium sensor school thing, so here's like, when I say that like you can't go down and own the Pacific Ocean with a gallon jug, what I mean is, I think on one state of the network or one video, I was like, hey, if anyone wants to contribute to this Google Sheet, cruise on over and like drop in a project. I hired this engineer to help me kind of figure out a bunch of these stuff. We're going to do one project a month. And I thought we'd get like, 4 or 5 extra projects. You hit that link and I forget what tab it is. Actually, I think we can look at that tab together. Stand by. Here it is. Yeah, here it is in projects. I think the first 10 or so was stuff that, no, the first 9 was stuff that like Dirk and I had kind of talked about. And then from 10 down to, I don't know, 20 something, 31, when I was like, I cut it off. I was like, guys, I can't take it anymore. That happened in like maybe 10 minutes. And it was a ton of cool projects. Like, I don't know, everything, right? Cars and places. There was a cool one. What was the 𝗚𝗏𝗀𝗶𝘀𝗀 one? That was kind of neat. That 𝗵𝗫𝘁 came up with, which is like, hey, here's a thing that's an antenna. You can take it and in an emergency, you can huck it up on top of a building or throw up in a tree, and it provides coverage for a month or a week or something. It's like a total emergency thing, like super cool, fun project to do. And it's like, this is what happened with, I think we had 2 or 3 people contributing. I think I masked some of their identities on it. And that happened in, I don't know, 10 minutes, probably no, like 45 minutes, something like that. Like the amount of projects that are out there that you could do it's not infinite, but it's a big finite number. And then you take all those projects and you figure out for each one of them, how do you commercialize it? Or going back to the sensor coach or sensor school, is one of the first like interview or like intake questions would be, hey, are you a recreational user or are you looking to commercialize something? And so part of that kind of user flow would, if you're just recreational and you're like, hey, I kind of want to learn about sensors. I want to do something cool. I don't have any intent to make money off this. Like I want to learn. It would not take you through to the biz dev course. But if you're like, hey, I want to commercialize this, you'd have an option for a module, and maybe it's an upsell, maybe it's just included in the monthly subscription, where I'll walk you through like, hey, here's how to put together a pitch. Here's what to write. Here are the important points to approach a business and sell them something. Because what I've seen, helping people with grants over the past year is that pitching businesses and selling stuff is a skill, just like anyone else. I think Sierra on here is really good at it. There's a couple of people on here, and certainly in my orbit, who are phenomenal salespeople. And a lot of it is it's a skill. It's just like any other technical or physical skill. It's like throwing a lacrosse ball. The first time you walk up to a lacrosse stick and pick up a ball, you look like an idiot. But after a little bit of practicing, you can zing that thing to any part of the goal that you want to, or soccer, or whatever your technique thing is. And just teaching people like, hey, there's a whole ecosystem of this that I think I can put together all the people in the right places to help you walk your idea through from kind of zero to hero. And whatever that start point is for you and whatever that end point is for you, I think I can build something that helps you get from that A to B. Yeah. Jeez, what is going on in the chat where Travis is dropping in 50 Mike training pistols? Where did that come from? Let's see. Ken Oath, Gregory. Okay, Joe, so the thing is getting rescheduled. Not sure it's happening. The last I saw was going to be like 8 o'clock Saturday morning, which is not my favorite time to be doing stuff. That's like my creative time. I guard that pretty jealously. But for you, Joe, I will come on for that. But if not, we'll reschedule it and do something else. Yeah, and Fred Gardner, this let's see, let me bring the chat up here. I think this is probably at the essence of what I'm talking about, is these simple things sometimes into big things, right? Is that you start with one thing and maybe you're just doing it recreationally. You're like, yeah, this is just going to be a fun thing. And I'm going to try it out. Regarding the 𝗱𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗀, Travis. Okay, that was where the 50 mics came in. I was like, geez, that is a large caliber round to be doing that. Yeah, it's like, hey, like all this stuff starts. We got to throw a lot of stuff at the wall. We got to see what happens, see where it goes. Yeah, some people willing to help for free, like Fred, which is awesome. Some people, can't do that or won't do that for whatever reason. That's fine too. And putting all of that in there. Let's see, Sam Strecker. Do you have a day job or is this your full-time job now? It's probably worth talking about, I guess, if you're interested. So how do I make money? I've got another business, Paleo Treats, paleotreats.com, that my wife and I have had for years and years and years. We started it with another guy who's a super close friend. A little bit of a sad story there. Killed himself a couple years ago. But yeah, so that's one way I make a little bit of money. That is not the most profitable business. Anyone who's in the food biz, who doesn't kind of do it full time and is crazy about it, will tell you that food is a tough biz to be in, but it's super fun for us, helping people eat healthy dessert. So that's where some of my income comes from. But the majority of what I do for work, Sam, actually to keep this on here so people know what I'm talking about, comes in from consulting or helping people. So I help people. Let's see, I write a couple blogs for Helium, for the Helium Foundation. So every month I'm on the hook to provide content for them. They can come on to State of the Network anytime as part of that agreement that we have. But just helping show off, hey, this is what happens in Helium. And the interesting thing is I've seen every so often I'll get flack from people who are like, oh, you're a Helium lackey or sellout, you're whatever. You get paid for this. You're a Helium employee. None of those, I don't think, are true. I am not a Helium employee. I'm not a Nova employee. I'm not a Helium Foundation employee. I'm a contractor. And so for that specific contract, it's providing information on the internet, if that's on the GK blog, about that. So let's see, the next piece that's going to come out for that is something that I hired another contractor to help me with, hired Dirk to help me with. We're going to do this home automation thing and do a blog post on that. And so that's some of the income that I've got comes in from that. And then I help projects. So I work with Max Gold, who is, I think he says, Joe, is it Joe that says he's a professional agitator, or Max on Twitter? But Max has been super helpful. He's super loud about where problems are in these projects. And so what I saw was that, hey, here's a dude. Max's background is pretty cool. He worked for Deloitte for a while and then went on to, his job at Deloitte was, and we'll talk about this again maybe later today, was it they looked for new tax legislation coming out from the government, from the U.S. government, and then they would help companies understand how that tax, whatever legislation applied specifically to their company and where they could benefit from that. So I worked for Deloitte for a while doing that. And that really, you'd think that is the most boring job in the world, and it certainly is for me. But for Max, it kind of really honed his understanding of how to build incentives. As he looked at what the government was doing, how they're writing tax code, and how they were building incentives to get people to do the right thing. And didn't realize at the time that was this kind of foundational understanding of incentives that would be super valuable when applied to these projects that didn't exist when he started doing that stuff, but came into existence with Helium and the incentive stuff. So if you've ever been on any of the HIP discussions, you've seen Max talking about it and pointing out where things are wrong. I think lately he's been on getting after the pollen people about how their incentive system is broken. But yeah, so Max and I work together as consultants for projects. We work for GeoNet, for Anode Labs. We're talking to 2 others, Max. I don't know if Max is on here. I think he's doing a pollen install right now. And so we charge a monthly fee to help them understand what's going on in the blockchain and meat space world. Because what we're seeing so far is that these guys come from a usually deeply technical background. They've got this extraordinary expertise in whatever it is they're doing. So GeoNet, Mike Horton comes from this 20 plus year background of understanding satellites and how all of that stuff works, and has a pretty good understanding. That dude's a sharp cat of blockchain, and he's got another blockchain dude in the group there. But what Max and I bring to the table is like, look, we've seen how these communities grow up. We've seen where the kind of disasters are. And here's how to avoid them. And then here are some ideas that we've seen from the growth of Helium, from the growth of 𝗪𝗏, from the growth of HiMap, or from the growth of GeoNet. And Anode Labs, React, all those things. Like, here's what we think you can do. And so the way that we kind of see ourselves in that whole arena is, look, we're like accelerators and efficiency finders for new projects. So that's how I make my money. I think of it as like kind of hunter-gatherer stuff, where you're like hunting around for companies that need your help and finding them and pitching them on ideas, and pitching them on being helped and doing that. But yeah, that's my day job. So State of the Network, I don't get any money for. Maybe I get Joe at Network Bets will tell you how much YouTube pays, but I think it's like, I don't know, Joe, what do you think this show makes? Maybe $20 a month or something. It's like some ridiculously low amount. Yeah. So that's how I do it. Okay, let me cruise back in the chat. Anthony and Fred, I'll just add this up there. Willing to help for free. Thank you. That's awesome. Super cool. Love to see that. Anthony, what's your thing? I'm going to read this. Hallcoin.org. I don't know. I'll have to go check that out. That looks cool. Bobby just joined. What's up, Bobby? I know you like coming in and seeing this. I'm seeing that Network Bits is saying he's the one that's a professional agitator. Yeah, Max might say something else. Okay. Chad, Bobby, Nick, I have some concerns I'd like to be addressed. I put a lot into 5G. It seems like Helium is now jumping to the other foot, going to Wi-Fi in 2023. Okay. So I think this is actually a great question. I know Chad or Bobby, like, I always forget who's who. But we met in New York, Helium House, New York. It was good to get to talk to you. And I also have concerns about 5G. And I think this is what we're seeing. Let's see, how do I put this? There are kind of two ways to go about this, or two different paths on the 5G side. The first path is I don't fundamentally understand how like the 5G thing works as it was originally pitched versus where it is now, right? My initial understanding when me and Elmo and Jeremy Rollinson, and I think Travis, you were on that one, did that video like back January of last year on 5G, where those guys are helping me understand like what it was and how to use it, was that the position then was that you should take these smaller radios and put them into places that are too difficult or too expensive for the big telcos to get to. So food courts, underground bars, like really specific places. And I remember when I heard that, I was like, how is that going to be big? Like, there's a lot of food courts and there's a lot of underground bars, but there's not like an infinite number of them or anything close to a huge amount. So I didn't understand it. I still don't. And then I saw that Helium, and I gotta be careful about who I say, because there's three entities, right? There's Helium Inc., and then there is Nova, and then there's Helium Foundation. But one of them started doing this, and Max is going to kill me because I don't know this stuff, and I should. Started doing this incentivization for larger outdoor radios. And I was like, it didn't make sense to me, because you're competing against the telcos, and that's their business. And going up against giants in their strength, like that doesn't work. As any guerrilla adversary can tell you who's gone up against the US, like you don't go up against the giant head-to-head in open battle where they're the strongest, because you'll just get bombed out of existence. And that's my concern with this is like, hey, we're putting up all these radios all over the place and it's super fun. But I don't think they compete with the telco stuff. And I don't think enough has been done to say, look, the 5G stuff is super specific, but that's me. I don't understand this. If one of you understands it better and you're like, oh no, you idiot, like 5G is going to be way better because of this, great. But it doesn't make sense to me to the way 5G is laid out now. So Bobby, I also share your concerns. So that's kind of track one of that path. Track two is this idea where Helium is now jumping to the other foot and going to Wi-Fi in 2023. So I think of, and and I will be sloppy about this. I'll say Helium, and I'll include 𝗨𝗏 and Helium Foundation and Helium kind of Inc. in the same thing. Is that, look, their mission, their goal is to spread and, what do they say, proliferate wireless networks globally, and decentralized wireless networks. So you can expect them, and you should plan on them jumping from launching network to network to network. So they started with IoT, they went to the CBRS thing, which is another crazy thing, is they call it 5G, and it's not. It's something. It's not that. It's LTE for most of it. I know it's LTE, and then they're going to go to Wi-Fi. They will go to other, like, every single wireless protocol they can find where it looks like decentralizing it will be better for the economy. They will do that. That's their job. And that's how they see it. And I'm not speaking for them. Like I said before, I'm not an employee, but this is my understanding of it, is their job is not to make sure that, like, they build out a fully complete network and completely populate the ecosystem. Their job, as they see it, is to lay out the structure over and over and over for other people to come in and fill in and build out an ecosystem and build their own business. So you should expect that. So on the one hand, I think the 5G thing is, like, I just don't understand it. And I think that I don't think enough was done to educate people on kind of what it was, or to correctly incentivize people to do good 5G deployments. So I think that is kind of the downside. But the upside is that you've got the other track, which is that, yeah, Helium, 𝗨𝗏, whatever, is going to keep rolling out these networks. And the way to think of it, going back to the earlier part of the conversation, is like they're going to keep kind of filling Pacific Oceans. And then they're not going to do anything beyond that. They're not going to teach you how to surf. They're not going to teach you how to sail across the ocean. They're not going to teach you how to do navigation across the ocean. They're not going to teach you how to build a submarine or run torpedoes or do sonar or anything that you can do with an ocean or desalinate it. They're just going to fill an ocean. And that's it. And an ocean without people on it to use it and do the rest of it, and, you know, whatever is I think that's a reasonable way to think of it. It's certainly not a useless thing, but it's not like it's not on Helium. The responsibility is not on Helium, as they see it, to fully, like, build out the entire ecosystem and populate it with dolphins and whales and fishes and seagrass and kelp and all the rest of it, and sea urchins and delicious scallops. That's your job. So should you choose to accept it, you can build a giant business in the ocean. Okay. I got behind on the chats again. Sorry, guys. Let's see. I'm seeing Travis shrugging. Who here has a spot mapper? Those exist in the wild. So the only person I know is not here, but there is a Helium 5G top secret mapper out there. Devo, good to see you. What's up, dog? Do those exist in the wild? They do. I think they are very sparse. Let's see. I'm assuming this is Joe about the Max. It doesn't like me. Probably, yeah. Max doesn't like he doesn't like almost anyone. But yeah, that's the Max. Let's see. Fred, your time is worth more than that. Thanks, dog. Yeah, I look at that. This is going back to the kind of the money thing, and I think that comment was in reference to this YouTube, the state of the network. I don't think it even makes $20 a month. Look, Helium has given me a lot, like the Helium ecosystem, not the Helium Foundation or 𝗨𝗏 or that. Just like, it changed my life. I went from, when I was looking for that paraglider thing, I did not have a ton of money. We were like, I don't know, I've never had a bad life, but we were scrabbling all the time. And I can't say I'm, rich as Croesus now. And we still kind of scramble occasionally, because that's just what it's like when you're running your own small business and building something. But it certainly changed my life in that way. And so I think that this is one of the things I can do to help give back, that is kind of a repayment to the Helium kind of corporation and company for building something that allowed me to do that. And also to all of you who have helped me along the way, giving you kind of a little bit of a platform to come in here and speak your piece and share what's going on, whether that's Travis or Devo or Joe or Hack or, Anthony, any of you guys, 619, any of your businesses, any of the businesses that have come on here is like, hey, I think I can build this thing that is generally useful to the community. And if that doesn't make me money, fine, I can make money other places. Let's see. It's still catching up on the chat here. Amateurs deploying 5G scares me. Yeah, me too, Hack. I'm on board with this. Like, I just, and again, and I'm, this is part of the deal with Helium Foundation. If you guys have someone who understands 5G and can help me help clarify my misunderstanding of it, right? We started the show with how this journalist had done super sloppy journalism and didn't understand it and was creating FUD because of that. Maybe I'm in the same position here. I'm totally open to being publicly kind of wrong on that, and having someone from the HF or Nova come in here and be like, yeah, this is what you're misunderstanding. This is where we think it's going. Come on, this is a platform for you. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, this is going back to the 5G thing. Sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat here. Cool. Tyson's Tech. Gregory jumped in the Discord. Cool. Add me to the educator list. Yeah, you got it. I will, let's see. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, Greg, I will get you in there, and I'll probably do some more work on that kind of whole idea this coming week, and make a public channel for that if we don't already have one. Yep, and super good point here, Siegfried. There is no Helium Inc. and Nova. Helium Inc. renamed to Nova. There's no Helium Inc. anymore. Yep. I always think like it is confusing, right? Because there was a Helium Inc. and then that renamed to Nova, and then it split out to Helium Foundation. So there's kind of three entities to discuss, and depending on who you are, what name you're using, delineates a moment in time and also an interest and outcome. So thanks for that clarification. I always tend to think that everybody knows everything I do, but that's not true. Let's see. Thunder Road Garage, been out of the country. Don't get scared. Been out of the country for a month. What am I missing? 5G units are no longer there. Obsolete. No, they're not obsolete. I think here's the thing is that there is a super cool strategy for rolling out 5G. And it is putting it into, it's doing the original thing. It's finding underground bars. It's finding those little pockets that telcos can't hit because it's not worth their time. I think I've talked about this before. There's a chocolate shop like 2 blocks down from our little dessert shop. And they could do a Helium 5G unit in there to help their customers stay on, not have to jump on a Wi-Fi when they come in there, like that kind of thing where the coverage in there is okay. But you look for somewhere like coverage isn't good and then provide that. Like that is the play for it. That's the way to do it. So I would not say they're obsolete. I just say like that it's very specific from my understanding, which again could be wrong, as to where they go. Let's see. Sam, 5G networks are starting to become homogenous. Yeah, this last piece, this mappers will provide valuable info. Yes, 100%. And that is like a super cool play that I'm seeing come down the pipe. That may be one of the most valuable things Helium does. I could be wrong about that, but that's how I see it. I know when I was looking into, I think Max started this project a while ago. We were like, hey, we should do our own independent mapper that goes around and collects all this data and sells it back to the companies. Like that data is super valuable. And just by having the mapper that Helium currently has that I haven't seen, to be totally transparent, just heard about, is pretty cool and collects all signals from all the different pieces. Let's see. Okay, I'm going through the chat here. Nick, how do you compare Helium to 𝗶𝗀 and their 5G networks? I don't know enough about it. I mean, I think they're doing the same thing in different ways. I think this whole like DY thing and the DY Cowboys is funny marketing. But again, like I'm the idiot here. Right? I don't understand how having a 5G system that only does data, that doesn't do, and you guys can correct me on this, I'll look at the chat, doesn't do text, doesn't do voice, like how is that useful? If I have a plan on my phone, I want to be able to call, to text, and to use data. And sure, I use data most, but yeah, I want to be able to do the other things. So I don't understand it either. I'm just as ignorant as the next person. And whoops. Yeah. So my ignorance hopefully doesn't spread too much FUD, but let's see. You are rich in KN. What is that, knowledge? Yeah. Rich in experience too. I've got a lot of experience in how to fail and live through it. Knowledge. Yeah, there it is. Nailed it. Okay. Let's see. Chad talks about touch on the nonsense from Australia. No, it's not nonsense, right? Those guys have a problem. That problem needs to be fixed. And I think despite like what is being seen publicly, what I'm seeing when I talk to the Australians, when I talk to folks who are behind the scenes, helping out with the whole thing, is that thing is, it's going to be sorted out. Yeah, and it will. Yeah, it will be sorted out. It's just going to be a pain in the butt, and it's particularly painful for Australians because they kind of planned on one thing. They had warned about this thing happening, and for a number of good reasons, which I think they kind of ignored the messaging from Helium. Is they ended up in this pickle. But it's not like there isn't a problem. They're a bunch of stupid backwards, ex-convicts. Like, that's not true. Those guys are all pretty sharp guys. They're just super abrasive in how they approach this problem, and I think that set the whole thing back and was a bad look in general for the U.S. based side. But what I saw happening on that was like basically two entities talking right past each other and getting really upset that the other entity didn't listen to their side of the story. That's just my 2 cents on there. I think everybody in that thing is kind of working for a good, positive, common solution. Do you mean literally underground bars? Like bars that are like buried, like the bar that we all met in at New York, right? For the Gristle crew and anyone, like that was an open invite. Is that bar was underground. You had to go down a bunch of steps to do it. It was off the main street. The signal in there sucked, if I remember right. And we all kind of laughed about like how we should do it. In fact, I think one of the Gristle crew went and approached the owner of that bar. And said like, hey, do you want Helium in there? Let's see. Elmo knows 5G. Yeah, that dude knows 5G like crazy. He's totally on it. I asked him a bunch of questions and I still didn't understand. Let's see. Joe's saying everything is going to VoIP. So super great example of like where my ignorance is stunning. Yeah, maybe VoIP is the answer, and I'm just a backwards idiot on this thing, which is totally, or backwards ignorant person on this thing, which is totally reasonable. I'll tell you this: I'm an Apple guy, and it's like when that thing goes blue or green and the message doesn't go through, I'm just like, dude, how does this work? Like, shouldn't this be, what's the word, abstracted away so I don't have to deal with it, and the message goes through, and I don't have to worry about whether it's blue or green or going over SMS or something else? But that's just me. Okay. I can see you guys are playing around in the chat. We have bars physically underground bars. Yeah. So maybe I'll go bury a bar and Travis and put an antenna on it, see if you can find it. Okay. Yeah. Super cool here. So, yeah. And I think the other hope here as we kind of wrap up this session of State of the Network is that by sharing all this stuff publicly, and I think this is what Joe wants to do with his show, and approaching it in a pretty neutral manner and really approaching it and saying, look, I think that most people are trying to be positive. Most people are trying to build something. Most people are trying to make like a better world for themselves and the people around them. That's the best way to approach all of this. Very rarely you have, scum sucking folks who would just come in and leech off the system. And those have giant impacts, but most of the time, most people are doing, they're trying to do something great. And I think that is true of almost everyone I've seen in the network, right? I think it's true of all the Aussies that have been doing this is like, they want to build something. They want to build on Helium. You can see their passion for it when you look in their Discord and in the Helium Discord. Like, this isn't something they don't care about. This is something they care deeply about. And they want to build something awesome. They see the potential in Helium and want it to work. And I think that's true of almost everyone in the Helium system who has come in, with the exception of the gamers who just want to suck our wars off. But everyone else wants to build something cool and be a part of something cool and build something rad. And that's a cool thing to see. Let's see. Siegfried, see you later. Need to run. Is anyone concerned about the Helium price, Bobby? At what price would you get really scared? Yeah, remember Paul came on a while ago, Travis, and talked about this? Like $1,000 HNT would be a problem, and he explained it. And that guy is so far ahead of me in understanding how the system works that I was like, I'm pretty sure what he's saying is true. I don't understand it. So yeah, if it scares Paul, scares me. Scares Travis, scares me. I think what's going to be fun for all of us is to see HNT go up to whatever 55 again, or 100 again, or 200, or approaching that limit of being scary to people who know what they're doing. But I think the crazy question is like, what are you going to do if Helium goes to 55? Are you going to sell? Because I think most of us didn't sell last time, and we're now all kicking ourselves. I'm super curious to see what happens if it has another run as people understand, the implications of Like, hey, we came to this giant ocean and nobody's on it, nobody's fishing in it, nobody's drilling in it, nobody's using it, nobody's desalinizing it, nobody's tracking anyone on it. Like, huh, wonder if there's any value in that. I think we're going to see H&T go up. But yeah, I think this is, Brian, this is the comment, right? Is that the price is irrelevant. If you're in this for this game, and if you're in this for profits and you want to take profits off HNT, have your number in mind, build your plan out and follow your plan. And I would love to do this like too high price, a show on too high of a price being scary. So, all right, that's all we got for today. It's 10 o'clock. I like to end these things on the button. Thanks a ton for coming on and listening to this one. It was a little bit unusual because it's just me this time. But next week, we should have everybody back in their chairs and crushing. Yeah, thanks. I will see you guys later on. Rock and roll.